Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you didn't mind having a little bit of a break last week. I needed it for many reasons, and I'm feeling a little bit more refreshed. It's still just over a week until Christmas, so I won't say that I'm feeling 100% refreshed. I'm still very much looking forward to having a Christmas break, but having had that week off YouTube, you'll know if you follow me on Instagram at Charlotte Finesse Writer that I've been having a little bit of a break from Instagram as well. And I think just letting a couple of things rest over this period has meant that I've had some space to just recharge a little bit. So thank you very much for being so lovely, as you all have been on Instagram. And I don't think I got any replies to the post that I put out on YouTube, but I know some of my friends and family that saw the post said, you didn't even have to tell us, we'd have just understood. So that's really nice as well. So thank you. I feel like we're building this really lovely little community here. And I'm so, I always say I'm so grateful that you follow me anyway, but that you're so lovely as well just makes it a little cherry on top. So thank you. So I'm coming back today with quite an exciting video. This is just the introduction and I'll go into the main part of the video. I basically saw, I think it was a TikTok of somebody who had a wild squirrel. Stick with me. They had a wild squirrel that was coming into their garden every day, and basically she was feeding them nuts, and then somehow, she did explain in the TikTok video but I can't remember, somehow decided to then change that to where the squirrel chose her next book to read. So what she did was she put two books out on the patio or on the decking, put some nuts on each one, and then closed the door and left it a while. And then eventually when the squirrel turned up, whichever pile of nuts it kind of just naturally chose, that was the book she would read. And it made me think, I have done polls and things before where I'm like, which book should I read next? And they do okay, but they never get loads of engagement. And I was trying to think, other than me arbitrarily picking what my next book's going to be and then giving you this book list or book review or book recommendations that have just been plucked from my choices, I thought, how can we make this a bit more scientific? Spoilers, it's not scientific at all, but it is quite fun. So what I decided to do was employ the help of Stanley, who, as I'm filming this, is currently in his litter tray scratching around and having a big poo. Thanks love. So without further ado, let's skip ahead to the process of Stanley, who, yes, is dressed up as Batcat, because Melissa lent me a little Batman t-shirt that Obi, her dog, had been wearing, because I've been very worried about Stanley being too cold over the last week or so. And so I've been dressing him up in this little Batcat t-shirt, which is absolutely hilarious, and he looks so cute. So he was wearing his Batcat t-shirt, and here is the footage of him choosing my next 4 books for the next season. And then we'll come back and I'll show you the books that he's picked. So what I did was I set out the books and I basically distracted Stanley by giving him a pile of Dreamies on the other side of the kitchen, and then whilst he was eating those, raced back into the dining room, put the 2 books down, put a little pile of Dreamies in front of each book and waited to see which book he came to first. And it kind of worked. I feel like once you realise there were Dreamies in front of one book, the next time when he came to the book again, he just went straight back to where the Dreamies had been before. So I don't think he realised there were a pile of Dreamies next to the other book as well. So then when he figured that out, it did feel a little bit more authentic. Then there was a bit where he just bypassed the Dreamies entirely and came to look at me, so I had to pick him up and go and put him down. And you've got this lovely little clip of me in my Yoda slippers because I was properly dressed for the winter. When I filmed this, I had a pair of leggings on, a dress, a hoodie, socks, my slippers, my fingerless gloves. I had the whole shebang on. And so you got a little glimpse of that. The most attractive of looks, I have to say. So yeah, it kind of worked. What basically happened is Stanley picked 4 books. Right, I've just moved the camera around slightly because I realised that I had the tripod up on top of the pile of books that Stanley had chosen. So the first one that he picked was the children's book by A.S. Byatt. Now, I think I've started reading this already. In fact, I think that we read this with my book club. So before we moved away to France, I started a book club with some friends locally. And I've got a feeling that this was one of the very first books that we read I didn't finish it because I find A.S. Byatt quite a thinking author. I think she's brilliant, but you really need to like be aware and conscious and thinking about the language, and it's a bit of a, how can I say, just like a conscious read. Do you know what I mean? Like when you know that you're reading something that the language is a little bit more difficult, and you know that you're trying to be kind of made aware of the language and the tone and this, that and the other. It's not just like a sit down and read through it chick lit type thing. So anyway, I will read the back of it. So this is what it looks like. It's a beautiful cover. I love the dragonfly on the front, and it says, famous author Olive Wellwood writes a special private book bound in different colours for each of her children. In their rambling house near Romney Marsh, they play in a storybook world. But their lives and those of their rich cousins and their friends, the son and daughter of a curator at the new Victorian Albert Museum, are already inscribed with mystery. Each family carries its own secrets. They grow up in the golden summers of Edwardian times, but as the sons rebel against their parents and the girls dream of independent futures, they are unaware that in the darkness ahead they will be betrayed unintentionally by the adults who love them. So the blurb on the back is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, that instantly makes me want to read it. It's historical fiction. It's got a little bit of mystery and something different about it. And yeah, everything about this book draws me in. But like I say, I have definitely started reading this. Now I've read the blurb, I've definitely started reading this before, and I think it's going to be a bit of a thinker. So I'm quite glad that I'm going to be reading this over Christmas, because then I've got the time to actually read it. I'm not trying to read on evenings and weekends when actually I just want to have something easy to read. The next one that Stanley picked, I was so happy that he picked this. I was like, basically what I did was I put books that I really wanted to read next to books that I was like, I'd be happy reading these, but I kind of want to read them so that I can get them off the list and sent off to the charity shop. And the first one, the A.S. Byatt, I actually really wanted him to pick out The Conviction of Cora Burns, which is on this pile, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But I really wanted him to pick that one out, and he didn't. So I was a bit gutted, but it is on the pile anyway, which I will explain in a minute. But this one, this is Antonia Hodgson's A Death at Fountains Abbey. Now, I'm sure I've reviewed a couple of Antonia Hodgson books already. If not on video, I've definitely done them on Instagram, because I've read, this is the third, I think, in her Thomas Hawkins series. The first one is The Devil in the Marshalsea. The second one is, I think it's The Confession of Thomas Hawkins is the second one. And then there's this one, A Death at Fountains Abbey. And they're all, they're proper historical fiction in the purest sense. It is historical periods in time. A lot of the things that happen around the main characters are real. Some of the main characters that are featured are real historical figures, but Tom Hawkins is completely fictionalised as a character. And yeah, so on this one, this is obviously based at Fountains Abbey, which, if you remember, me and Tom actually went to Fountains Abbey recently. Well, I say recently. Was it like, do you know what? I can't remember. I'll put it in an iCard and you can watch that. But I actually took this book with me because I wanted to get some photographs for whenever, and I was intending to read this quite recently after I visited, for whenever I did get round to reading it, I'd have a really nice picture for Instagram. So I'm really glad that it's come up. And it says, I'll read the back to you again. It says, late spring 1728. Fresh from his escape from the gallows, Thomas Hawkins has arrived in Yorkshire with his ward, Sam Fleet. But death still has a hand upon his shoulder, even in such idyllic surroundings. John Aislabie, Tom's reluctant host, is being tormented by anonymous letters threatening murder. A disgraced politician, Aislabie certainly has plenty of enemies, but trapped in a house haunted by old tragedies, Tom begins to suspect that the danger lies much closer to home. Someone is playing a subtle and deadly game of revenge, years in the planning, and now Tom is standing in their way. So it sounds wicked. And I think as CJ Sansom is probably not going to be releasing another book because he's poorly, I think Antonia Hodgson may be becoming my new kind of CJ Sansom, which doesn't do any justice to Antonia Hodgson because she's a phenomenal writer, and I'm not trying to compare her to CJ Sansom. What I will say is that the gap that CJ Sansom's books left, I think, can be filled by Antonia Hodgson because she is a phenomenal writer. Okay, and then the next one that came up is a bit of an odd one really, but it's another book that's been on my kind of to-do read. to read list for a really long time, and I have picked it up and I started it, or I got like a couple of pages in but didn't get any further, and I think it's because it's one of those books that you have to read at the right time. It has to be the right time for you to read it, and I don't know why now is the right time, but it kind of feels like it is. So I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to try again, and it is We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lionel Shriver. And if you don't know what this is about, it's basically a book written from the perspective of a school shooter's parents. Shortly before his 16th birthday, Kevin Kachadurian kills 7 of his fellow high school students, a cafeteria worker and a teacher. He's visited in prison by his mother, Eva, who narrates in a series of letters to her estranged husband, Franklin, the story of Kevin's upbringing. For this powerful, shocking novel, Lionel Shriver was awarded the Orange Prize for Fiction. Now, obviously, that's a very kind of specific narrative, which unfortunately we are all too familiar with in the world. But I know a lot of people that have read this book and have said it's absolutely phenomenal. And it's one of those books that I feel like it's a very important book to read if you are literary, if you like books, if you enjoy reading. And so I'm really, it's hard to say that you're looking forward to reading a book like this, because it's obviously going to be a very kind of, well, it says it on the front here, a harrowing narrative. And I think it's going to be quite interesting to read as well. I did see the TED Talk from that one of the, I think it was Dylan Klebold, or one of the other, I can't remember, one of the 2 shooters from the Columbine shooting. His mother did a TED Talk saying, my son was a school shooter, and that TED Talk was so powerful. It's been a long time since I watched it, but I definitely did watch it a while ago, and I think it's really interesting that perspective, looking at it through the lens of the parents, because it's obviously very easy when your child does something like that to blame the parents and assume that the parents are in some way to blame for where that child ends up. And I think that's going to be a really interesting talking point throughout this book. Yes, I am looking forward to reading it. I'm looking forward to diving into it and to finding out more about Kevin's story. It is fictionalized. It's not a true story, but obviously it's based on things that have happened in our lifetime. So yes, that's the next one. And then the final one that Stanley picked out was The Scarlet Letter by, oh no, not The Scarlet Letter. That's an entirely different book altogether. I do want to read The Scarlet Letter at some point. I haven't ever read it before. I think if you're an American, The Scarlet Letter is like one of the books that you do at school. It's American fiction is The Scarlet Letter, so we don't do it in England. We do things like, Shakespeare and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, this is not The Scarlet Letter, so it doesn't matter. This is The Sealed Letter by Emma Donoghue. Now, Emma Donoghue, I read, as you'll see from the sticker up here, The Room, or is it just Room? Yeah, it's just called Room by Emma Donoghue, and I loved it, and it's the most beautifully written book. It's actually been made into a film. I haven't actually seen the film. I want to see it, but I haven't seen the film adaptation of it. So I always knew I wanted to read more Emma Donoghue, and then when I saw this, it says they're just $6.99. I didn't pay $6.99. I think I got it from a charity shop. What are you doing? Yeah, you've already been in this video. You don't need to be in again. But it looks good. It's another historical fiction. So I'm sorry, a lot of the stuff that I'm reading this season is historical fiction, but I feel like I need some comfort books this season. You know me, I am trying to broaden my reading horizons. I'm trying to read a more diverse range of authors, but sometimes I do just need that kind of comfort read, and that's what I feel like I need. So it is another historical fiction. Sorry, my nose is itching. And it says, Helen Codrington is unhappily married. Emily Faithfull hasn't seen her once dear friend for years. After bumping into Helen on the streets of Victorian London, Fido, that's Emily's nickname, finds herself reluctantly helping her to carry on an affair with a young army officer. The women's friendship quickly unravels amid courtroom accusations of adultery, counter-accusations of cruelty and attempted rape, and the appearance of a mysterious sealed letter that could destroy more than one life. And it says here that it's based on the real-life scandal that gripped England in 1864. It is a historical novel, like I say, but it's not necessarily the type of historical novel that I would instantly pick up. It feels more about kind of individual personalities and individual relationships, whereas I think I tend to go for historical fiction that's more about place, mystery, discovery, self-discovery, self-relationships, as opposed to like partner relationships and stuff. So it'd be interesting. I'm hoping this one's going to be another good one. But yeah, really excited to read more from Emma Donoghue, because I think she's brilliant. And then finally, I have been cautiously optimistic and basically thought, if I get through all of those 4 books before the end of the season, and when I'm saying season, this is basically books that I'm reading throughout winter, so it's December, January, February. Yes, if it gets to the point where I've read all of these, which I don't think I will, because I know that January is going to be incredibly busy. It just depends on how many of these I get read over Christmas period. If I find myself needing another book to read, I am going to read The Conviction of Cora Burns. Now, I bought this with my, where did I get these from? The Works. Ages and ages ago, I did like a purchase of about 10, 12 books. And I picked this up then, and it's one that I've been wanting to read ever since, and I've never quite got round to picking up. I did go on in this video to give you a bit of blurb on the book and talk about why I picked it up and what I thought would be interesting about it, but I figured that this video is already getting quite long, and also if I don't actually get round to reading this one, it will go back into the mix for a future book list, a future reading list, so that's why I've cut that out here. Obviously, if I get round to reading it, I will do a review video and you'll find out more about it then, or you could just Google it. All right. So yeah, that is an optional extra, basically, because I really want to read it. So I popped it on the pile. So that's it. I think I've waffled on for far longer than I needed to, and I'm going to have a right old job editing this video down now. So just know that if I've managed to get this to under 15 minutes, I've put a lot of work in to get it there, and you're welcome. So thank you very much for watching this video. Yeah, so I am still going to be publishing over Christmas and New Year. If I'm not exactly publishing on a Monday, please do give me a little bit of slack. You will be getting a new video every week, but I've got some things planned. I've got themes and I've got video ideas, so I know roughly what I'm doing, and I'm hoping that you'll still get a video every Monday over this holiday period. And then we're into a brand new year, so there is a video coming up in the next couple of weeks that is like wrapping up 2022 and what I'm hoping to do in 2023, and in that video we'll be talking about writing events, exciting product development, book developments, and all other kind of writing, video, Instagram, podcast things that might be coming up in 2023. So look out for that video that's coming probably in the next couple of weeks. And yes, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, it would be an excellent Christmas present if you would consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I am Charlotte Finesse Writer. All of the links to find my books, to find my website, are all in the description box, as they always are. And yes, I hope you all have a fantastic week. I'm not going to say have a Merry Christmas, although maybe I should, because that's a point actually. This video is being published on Monday, and you may not get another video before Christmas. I don't know, it's going to depend on whether I can get another video out before next Monday. Okay, this video is going out on Monday, and if I don't see you again before, have a wonderful Christmas if you celebrate it. If you don't celebrate anything, then I hope you have just a general nice holiday and spend some time with family and friends and enjoy yourself. If you do celebrate Christmas, have a wonderful time, and I will see you again on the Monday after Christmas. And if you get a little sneaky video, well, that will be my present to you. So yes, take care, have a wonderful time, stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye guys.